Moving beyond the Dutch and California models. In the paragraphs above, we have described two models of de facto legal cannabis distribution. We use the term de facto because even in the Netherlands, the commercial production of cannabis, even cannabis that is grown for sale in licensed coffee shops, is technically illegal, though seldom prosecuted. In the United States, federal laws still prohibit large-scale cultivation in California and other states. In both cases, these models operate with solid political and public support. Equally important, in both the Netherlands and in California, neither regulatory model has been associated with dramatic increases in cannabis consumption by unauthorized users or by young people. Lifetime cannabis use among Dutch adolescents, though it has risen slightly over the years, remains significantly lower than among U.S. teens, and in California, marijuana use among young people declined sharply following changes in state law. In short, these regulatory schemes are functioning primarily as legislators and the public intended, and abuses of the system have been kept to a minimum. Even in California, where some critics have called for stricter regulations for cannabis providers, police report that the state-sanctioned distribution of marijuana has not greatly affected their law enforcement activities, nor has it led to routine misuse by the public. As you can see, many of the guidelines outlined in the previous section are remarkably similar to those that already govern the distribution and consumption of alcohol. There is one core difference, however. The commercial production of alcohol is licensed, taxed, and regulated, whereas the commercial cultivation of cannabis, even in California and the Netherlands, is unregulated and still remains, at least technically, illegal. It doesn't have to be this way, of course. Many countries already license private manufacturers to legally cultivate marijuana for public and commercial purposes. For instance, most European nations, as well as China, Australia, and Canada, have enacted regulations allowing for licensed farmers to grow industrial varieties of marijuana, hemp, as an agricultural product. Commercial farmers in these countries obtain a government permit to plant, grow, and harvest cannabis, which they then sell at a profit to private manufacturers. Some nations even license private businesses to produce psychoactive strains of cannabis. For instance, GW Pharmaceuticals, a biotechnology firm based in the United Kingdom, is permitted by the British Parliament to cultivate tens of thousands of marijuana plants. Cannabinoids from the plants are eventually extracted and used in marijuana-based medicines, which are then sold by the company on the worldwide market. Additionally, both the governments of Canada and the Netherlands license private firms to supply high-quality cannabis for those nations' medical marijuana programs. Under Canadian and Dutch law, authorized patients may obtain medical marijuana for a fee from the federal government. Of course, no nation has yet to license commercial businesses to manufacture and distribute marijuana in a manner similar to the production and sale of drugs like alcohol or tobacco. But that's not to say that the government couldn't do so. During World War II, the U.S. government licensed farmers to grow marijuana commercially for industrial purposes. Certainly, federal officials could license commercial producers to cultivate cannabis for recreational purposes as well. Or, if the feds aren't comfortable getting into the pot production business, they could simply choose to do nothing at all and let the individual state governments decide how best to implement local laws and procedures overseeing the legal production of cannabis. In many ways, this is what is happening today with state-sanctioned medical marijuana programs, most notably in California.